Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
Hour number 2 of the program begins right now. Soren, Petro, Curtis Seabolt, Rudy Salazar, Jed Marshall on assignment, top secret assignment today, making our way through the program. Time to talk some. Well, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We'll see. I don't know if Danny heard the open or not.
I did not hear the open.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Well, we had some fun at your expense. So
okay.
That was nice. Danny, always brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Easton Roofing, your roof is high, their workers are not. So if you've got residential or commercial roofing problems, Easton Roofing will fix them so you can get back to business, get back to life faster. I know they fixed my roof. No payment is collected until you're 100% satisfied. Call Easton Roofing today at 913-257-5426 or schedule your free, honest estimate right now, 913-257-5426. Estimates, inspections, always free with Easton Roofing. You can find them online at eastonroofing.com. Easton Roofing, integrity matters. Danny, let's start with the fact that Mizzou and LSU not going to play. The COVID virus postponing. Are they calling it a postponement, Curtis, or a cancellation?
Curtis is not here currently.
He is, yes.
Curtis had to.
I would imagine right now it's a postponement, but
I would think so too.
Seeing as it's a conference game and all that, I mean,
I saw the story. And
it is the Lebo sent out the press release, and it is game the LSU and Missouri men's basketball game postponed, January 9th, schedule updated.
Okay, so I wonder if I know in a couple of leagues they've had where two teams each lost their opponent. They're like, okay, well, you guys are going this week then, because we're getting this game in, right? And so I think on a Friday that was scheduled for tomorrow, so I don't know on a Friday they're going to be able to do that, but. I think there was an ACC game that two teams lost their opponent, and so they said, okay, well, you guys are going this week. And so I think there's going to be a lot of that. The college basketball, are we going to be able to get through a tournament?
Well, they're going all in one place, so maybe that will happen. So I don't know. Like,
do you have any fear that we're not going to get through the season? Because it's not like football where, like, okay, you got 100 guys and only 11 play at a time.
Oh, I think there's certainly some fear. I totally agree with that. But I think that, when you're talking about the COVID right now, there's still no certainty. We're not near the finish line. So I'm always going to think there's doubt, and basically for the reason you just talked about is the fact that you don't have a large amount of players. And if you lost 5 or something, and they were important players, or your team got riddled with it. Yeah, I would think there is.
Potentially are you buying or selling on Mizzou right now? Right, they're number 13 in the country. Like, they figured a drop down. Let's call them 18 in the country. After the loss to Mississippi State, they're going to take a little bit of a tumble. At 18, 19, 20, let's call it 20. At number 20 in the country, they're a stock. Are you buying or selling on Mizzou?
At number 20. You mean so if I buy the stock, they have to finish at 20 or better? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I think I would sell at this moment in time, because I'm a little unsure after the last, I mean, we're right at a tipping point. If they had continued on in the Mississippi State game the way they were rolling, then I would absolutely be buying. But all of a sudden they looked like a team that could struggle against regular opponents, not high-level opponents on the road. I mean, they had that game won. So if you were going to ask where I felt about Missouri in general and not buying or selling a stock, I would have said I think the next 3 games will tell us a lot, because they got wiped out against Tennessee, but they had a nice bounce back, and then it looked like they were going to continue that and make the Tennessee game look like either an aberration or the fact that Tennessee's just pretty damn good. And instead, they just melted down in the game against Mississippi State. So a lot of uncertainty, I would say.
I'm with you. I rode the roller coaster with the Tiger fans on Tuesday night because when they were pummeling Mississippi State, I'm like, this is a great win because
Right.
Mississippi State's a decent team, right? Coached by a guy who knows how to coach basketball, doesn't know how to wear a mask, but he knows how to coach basketball, and they're punking them. And I don't even think, and I was looking, I'm like, I don't even think their offense is anything exceptional yet. They're laying the 15-point beatdown on these guys. And what I ended up realizing was that, like, well, okay, yeah, their offense isn't any good, right? They do have problems, and they were just kind of making some buckets. But I was ready to be like, okay, this is like that Frank Haight team, not similar in structure, although there's some similarities in the sense that was an upper-class led team. But that Frank Haight team that ended up being a 2-seed, like this team they're going to be there all year. Like they're ready to fight, and they're going to be down for the fight moving forward. Although I was probably getting ahead of myself because I don't know that Mizzou team ever got punked. Kansas beat them pretty good that year in Columbia because Curtis and I went down to cover that game, and for me to get yelled at by Mike Anderson. Or no, that was Mike
in
Anderson
12.
No, we went down. That's right. We went down the year before.
They beat
Mike
them,
Anderson's last year.
They beat them late in Columbia and then blew a 19-point lead at Lawrence and lost in overtime.
That's right.
In 12.
That's right. I was confusing the years.
Yeah, I remember that game you're talking about.
Well, that's where I went down to confront Mike Anderson about going to Arkansas, and he was not happy about that. Remember that in the hallway?
Yes, I do. The steam is still in that hallway from his head.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm confusing my years. Yes, they beat Kansas that year. So did that Mizzou team take any bad loss like this one already had taken against Tennessee?
I don't recall that. I'm pulling that up now. I don't think they did.
I don't remember it either.
No. They only lost 14-4 in the conference. I don't remember a loss like that. I'm looking at it real quick here.
So I think I was probably caught up in the emotion of the moment and needed to do a little bit more digging. But I'm like, this team's feeling like it might play its way all the way up to being a number 2 seed, because I do have respect for Ben Howland and Mississippi State. And the odds makers had the game as a 1-point game in favor of Mississippi State, and here they were beating them down. And like my head, like sky's the limit with this team. Look out, here they go. And then,
well, I think that Curtis has analyzed this team incredibly well.
Wait, I'm not done. Continue the whole second half.
Yeah. I mean, they went from just wiping the floor with them to wiping their own butts.
Never seen a team lead by 14 in the second half and lose by 15 ever.
I'm sure it's happened, but I can't remember it.
And by the way, K-State, Missouri's first loss in 12 was at K-State, 75-59. So there's one similar to that, a 16-point loss at Bramlage. In fact, K-State beat them twice that year.
It does occur to me, like I'm sure we've seen a game go from way up to way down, but it strikes me that it was never with a team of consequence, because it seems like it would have stuck with you. Like, remember that time Kansas was up like 16 at West Virginia and they lost by 14? No, but I remember the time they were down 14 to West Virginia with under 3-1.
Yeah.
Right? Like it seems like, maybe not, maybe losses just fade away from your memory. So maybe that's unfair. But a little bit of me goes, yeah, like I want to just say it's one bad half. But part of me is like, well, I can't identify a game like that. So I wonder if that means it's because teams that have games like that or have halves like that are just pedestrian, bland teams that had no real great story to tell that year, and so it's not part of their legacy. I do wonder if it's like a really horrible sign that they had a couple of big wins, and then now it's going to be, fizzled them the rest of the way.
What I was getting into is Curtis's analysis of the team. It seems like, Cuonzo Martin has not really had teams that play smooth offense, and this team has the ability, because they have some really good shooters on their team and some experienced guys, to look really good because they've got some nice players. But once they get past the first 10 seconds of their offense, it goes a little sour, and if they don't attack and get a good shot on the first, foray into their offense, it kind of fizzles away after that. And
was Soren, you may have said this yesterday, mentioned they need an alpha dog. That should be Mark Smith. The 12 team had one. Marcus Denman. Yeah. He was an alpha dog. I mean, that they need that guy, maybe Kim English, but they definitely had that guy on that 12 team.
They had even more because Kim English would take a big shot. Mike Dixon Jr. off the bench would take a big shot. Phil
Pressey would take a shot.
Well, Pressey would take bad shots.
Yeah, but
I still am not sure that was being run the right way. I always felt like Pressey should have been the guy coming off the bench since he was such it's round and feels like leather, I'm letting it fly. Like, okay, do that with some backups when you need somebody to go get you a shot. But anyway, we don't need to, reevaluate Frank Hayes' tenure at Mizzou. But yeah, no, I think you're right, Danny. And so, like, so you'd sell them at number 20. Are they a tournament team when this year's over?
I think they're a tournament team. I think they've done enough right now that they just have to fall on their face to not be a tournament team. But like I said, if they rebound with 3 nice games, I'll change my opinion. It's just been a strange time.
I understand, right? Like why basketball can look bad offensively when you're dealing with kids. I don't understand why you can't get a rhythm of something or an identity of something when we're at the college level, though. Like Hanzo Martin's teams just have never why hasn't he gone? Is it because his whole staff is based on recruiting? Which, if it is, you need to think about some other guys. But where's that guy? Who was the guy that was on the bench for? I know what's his name, Doc. Who was the guy coaching Nebraska?
Doc Sadler.
Doc Sadler.
Doc Sadler. Doc Sadler's known as a great set guy, and that's why he was, the basketball ops guy for Kansas for a year. And who was the guy? He was with Iowa State his first year when Hoiberg came, and he had that guy. And he's just he's never been a head coach, but he's known as Mr. Offense. Little white guy, 50-ish. God, I can't remember his name. And then Oates, something like that. Anyway, and then he went someplace else, and he's kind of this guy, when you need to figure out offense.
Nate Oates?
Yeah, is that it?
Right. I know Nate Oates is a head coach right now, but that's the only Oates I can think of. I think he was wasn't he at
He was at Buffalo. Now he's at Alabama.
No, that's
not that guy.
He wasn't that high profile. No, I don't think so. Well, look and see if he was an assistant coach at Iowa State. So I don't think that's the same guy.
I don't know if either of these guys, but there was just an article of Fred Hoiberg. He added ex-Iowa State assistant coaches Matt Abdul Mazi and Charlie Henry to Nebraska staff. So I don't know if either of those two are it.
Might be, but anyway, there are guys out there that they just know offensive basketball. Go! Isn't one of your spots on your staff can it be reserved for that? Because that's the thing is Cuonzo Martin's whole career, can he look in the mirror and be like, you know what, we really don't score much. I need to fix this part of the game.
Right. I maybe that's the case, but I don't know. I don't know if they're getting it right. They're not getting it right now. I think they've got experienced guys who can create their own shot, and they've got some talent. And so when they're clicking, they look really good. And if the other team bogs them down, they don't look so good.
Yeah, and unlike a lot of teams, when their shots aren't falling, they don't have a backup plan. There's no scheming it. They're either hitting or they're not. When they're not. When they're
going
20.
well, it seems like to me when they're going well, Tillman is getting some things done inside.
Yep, at least grabbing some boards, if not scoring.
Yeah, but I even I can't remember which game it was. There's been a couple of the games where I'm again, we've talked about it. His hands aren't great, but he's NBA looking 6'11".
Mm-hmm.
Right? He's not just oh my God, that guy's joints are falling apart. He's taller than he's supposed to be. He's an athletic 6'11". I'm not saying he's, Kevin Garnett in his prime, but he looks the part. And then when he was walling guys off and they were getting some lobs to him, I don't know. I mean, like, how do you not just sit down and study tape after tape after tape of all the Azubuike dunks? Right? Because everyone, well, he's just so big. Like, yeah, but part of what they do is he sets up. Like, you can see it happening. On the back side of the play, he's already, walling a guy off to where the ball is going to go. And it makes its way around to his side of the floor, and he's already got the guy pinned upside. And then they lob it to him, and it's a half turn and a dunk. I mean, it was taking shape before the ball got to that side. I don't understand that, I guess.
Right. Well, I think there is a certain amount of dysfunction, but they did play. They played some good games where Tillman didn't play well earlier this year. And relied on their guards, and so I just think they're probably not as good as what they looked like rolling to number all the way up to 12 or 9 or whatever it was, and they probably aren't as bad as they've looked in the second half the other night.
Yeah. And the guy who's thought to be your best shooter can't just disappear for 3 games like Mark Smith does on occasion. You look up and 1 for 6.
Yeah.
Really? I mean, you got to be able to find that guy's got to be able to find a way when he's not shooting the ball well or something to find a way to get in the scorebook another way. And he doesn't. If the outside shot's not falling, it just kind of goes away. He goes away.
The flip side is Kansas, who gets pummeled by Texas,
right.
And all their fans are like, "Don't worry, we'll slap the crap out of TCU," and they do. Like, as a stock now at what were they at? They fell to 8 or something.
Mm-hmm.
Was that right?
I think it was 8, as low as they got.
At 8, are you buying or selling Kansas?
Borderline sell. I think they're like a barely in the top 10 type of team. I don't think they're going to win enough game. I think they've got enough losses in them, so they'll be a top 10 team. But that's not many losses. But they might have 3 losses in them to the 2 best teams. I think, although they usually win. They're very good at winning the games they're supposed to win, always. I guess
and stealing one they probably shouldn't.
Right. If I have to pick, I guess.
And you do.
I guess
I'm going to make you.
I guess I'll pick. I guess I'll pick sell. That they're that right where they are now is they're kind of an 8, 9, 10 type of team, which is pretty damn good. I mean, it's a 3 seed or at worst maybe a 2. But real close call on that. I don't see a top. I don't see them getting ranked number 1 at any time this season. Like,
right.
rolling off 10 wins in a row here. And
I agree. I think it might be like, well, let's hold and see. I'll try that. Let me just hold and see what ends up happening here, and we'll go from there. That might be the best way to put it, because I think they're right about where they belong.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit high, because I kind of think once you get out of there's usually like maybe 1 or 2 teams. This year it appears to be 2. Maybe Villanova will be in there as well. But then there's kind of a group of maybe 6, 7, 8. Then there's a group of like 20. Right, that runs everywhere from like 13 to 35, and that are all kind of the same way. And maybe Kansas is like right kind of in that sandwich of, okay, not quite in the group of, let's say, Gonzaga, Baylor, Gonzaga and Baylor up top, and then maybe it's Villanova, Texas, Iowa. I can't say
Tennessee,
because they've already beaten Creighton, but Tennessee. Maybe Illinois plays their way back up there. But then when you start seeing Missouri, West Virginia, we know they've beaten West Virginia, Rutgers, Minnesota. I think they're better than that. So I don't know. I mean, I got to watch. I don't know that I've seen Wisconsin play yet. I've seen Michigan, what they bring to the table. I think they're pretty good. But I'll say this, though. The win over TCU is more impressive than people realize when Marcus Garrett doesn't play, or Marcus Garrett not playing just gets more true ball movement, like maybe Marcus Garrett not on the point, because I've liked what I've seen when he's not running the point.
Yeah, I think that the problem for Marcus Garrett is I think he's a complimentary player, and when he plays the point a lot of minutes, that's not what he is, I don't think.
Right.
he's a very valuable player on your team, but if he has to play the point the whole time, I think it diminishes his value. Because for one thing, he has the ball in his hand a lot, and he has at times been a good slasher to the basket, but he probably does it too much when he's playing the point because he has the ball. Shot clock's running down. He's got to do something, and his inclination is to take the ball to the basket, and he's been finishing poorly this year.
Well, I've always said like .020, 0.025 worth of shooting percentage you can probably add to every point guard. Because they're the guy that when the clock is running down has to go, okay, here we go. Between the legs, crossover, step back, let it fly. And, their 20% shot is better than moving the ball again and somebody just throwing up, nothingness because the shot clock's going down. So they end up taking a lot of forced bad shots because the ball ends up coming back around to them when the clock's burning down. But he doesn't want to let it fly. Like he doesn't even have – the rhythm to how to even get a step back, three up into the air. So he's going to put it on the deck and go.
Right.
And if you run into a wall, well, now we're done. Shot clock violation, turnover. I'm with you. I'm curious. And he's a tremendous player, but is he a tremendous player playing in what is a system that's now no longer built for him?
I said I think he's a better player off the ball and occasionally.
No, but I mean, but not even like not off the ball, not being the point that like if you're going to embrace the spread it and three it, like it's great if you can play defense like him. That's fantastic, but you can't have anybody who can't three it.
I mean, it significantly hurts unless you are a true pass first point guard, and those are few and far between, and Bill Self doesn't really like to have them. But the only way that a guy who really doesn't shoot the three that well at the point is effective for you if his mindset is really driven by passing the ball and setting other people up.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of think if you're going to do the spread the floor in three, all five guys got to be able to do it. Or at least four of them got to be able to do it with one post. And he's not going to play down on the post. I think that's the way. Like when they got rolled by Villanova, everybody could go to the arc.
Right, for sure.
And I think that's the best way to play that.
Even their post guys could go to the arc.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break. Come back, get Danny's thoughts on some of the coaching news. We were talking about Eric Bienemy as a coaching candidate, what it'll mean if he doesn't get the job. We'll do that. We'll talk some playoff football with Danny as well. More of Danny Clinkscale, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. You'll find that out when you work with Easton Roofing. Call 913-257-5426, whether it's commercial or residential. They've got options for you. That's right. You don't always need a new roof. They'll walk you through every option available at Easton Roofing. Find them online at eastonroofing.com or call 913-257-5426.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing. And, Joe, there's all kinds of roofing companies in Kansas City. People see their trucks, they see their ads, they see their commercials on TV. What separates you out from the pack?
Danny, there's a lot of roofers in Kansas City that are good roofers that can put a good roof on, but we like to pride ourselves on giving you a good customer service experience. From the first time you call, you're going to get a friendly voice on the phone. We're going to let you know what's happening and when it's happening. And, the other piece is some companies are small enough to do small jobs. Some companies are big enough to do big jobs. We're right there in the middle. We can handle the little stuff. We can handle your repairs all the way up to your big commercial roofs.
So what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you at Easton Roofing?
You can find us at eastonroofing.com, or you can always call us at 913-257-5426. That's 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
All right, the Joe's Kansas City Barbecue burnt end of the hour answer.
I think I see some burn ends in my future.
Oh, yes.
Near future.
Pound of them probably this evening. With some dirty rice.
Lunch.
Yeah.
Fatty skipped lunch today, so it's a reason to.
It's a good way to make up for it.
That's right. That's right.
Who were the two starting quarterbacks in the Chiefs' first official wild card game?
Lay it on me again.
What do you mean, official wild card?
Well, some people might think. Danny says, "What do you mean official?" People might think that the '69 team was the wild card team, the first official wild card team. Yes, which is fine.
Definitely does because and he says, "Well, they weren't division champs, so what were they?" Which is a good point.
Yeah,
I think it is.
And Blair Kirchhoff was the first guy ever to say to me, "Well, they called them East 1 and East 2 and West 1 and West 2.
Yeah,
they basically were wild cards. They just didn't have that terminology. And I guess the wild card, what makes it different is that, you can get multiple teams from one division. It's not just an automatic first and second makes it.
Yep.
So that's what kind of makes it a wild card, I guess. But 78 was the beginning of technically the official wild card, right?
Yep.
So what was the question?
Who was the two starting quarterbacks in the Chiefs' first official wild card game?
All right, hold on. I want to get this because I think I can totally get this.
I'm not grinding. I'm not grinding on this one.
I'm going for it because it was Pat Ryan?
Pat Ryan. Pat Ryan for the Jets.
Wow.
And
wow, good get.
Did Bill Kenny or Todd Blackledge start that thing? I'm going to try Todd Blackledge.
Todd Blackledge and Pat Ryan. Bill Kenny would come in relief.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
That
not
is
bad.
Impressive right there.
Jets had lost their last 5. They came out. Chiefs were actually a slight underdog, but not by much. And the Jets put it on them, 35-15.
Yeah. They did in classic fashion. Albert Lewis blocked a punt for a touchdown. That was like their only high water mark.
Yes,
he blocked it off his face mask. I'll never forget that because he roared in. The punt goes up. It comes off his face mask, and he's looking for the ball, like where it went. And as he does, he's putting his helmet on straight. Like he's like running and like grabbing his face mask and getting his helmet back on straight so he can see the ball.
Yeah. They had one touchdown early, took a 6-0 lead on a Jeff Smith run. Then we're down 28-6, and Albert Lewis with the recovery in the end zone. The Chiefs' only other touchdown of the day.
Yeah. Oh, God, what a turd that game was. Oh, God, was that bad. I can't even remember. Who was the Jets quarterback? I can't believe I got Pat
Ryan.
Pat Ryan, yeah, Pat Ryan. Oh,
they went to Cleveland and almost knocked off the 1 seed. The Browns were down 10 with like 5 minutes left to go, had to rally.
Danny, were you in KC at that point, or were you still back in Boston?
What year is
86?
that? 86. I was back east.
Okay, so you might remember that maybe with hearing Pat's stuff, you might have remembered that Jet team. That Jet team went, I think, 10-1.
Yep.
And they were the talk of the NFL. Then they lost their last 5, or did they lose?
They lost their last 5. Yeah, they were 10-1. They went to Miami and got destroyed, 45-3. Yeah. And every game from that point was a bludgeoning. And
the Chiefs were a complete turd that was totally scheduled and other team injury driven.
Mm-hmm.
And they were 7-6, and they won 3 games, including the game against the Steelers, which they didn't score an offensive touchdown. They scored, 24 points?
24-19.
What was it, a kick return, a punt return, and a block kick?
It was a block field goal return, a kickoff return, and, yes, a block punt.
And a block punt for their touchdowns.
That was what got Frank Gans's job.
Right?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly it. Like that was going to happen every week. God bless Lamar Hunt for bringing the Dallas Texans to Kansas City and everything. But holy crap, was that the worst decision? Yeah. Holy man, was he missing it on that one.
But it did force their hand in 2 years later, ushering in the Marty Schottenheimer era. So I was kind of wondering about those things. One domino, had they not fired John Makovic and he stumbled around, does Marty Schottenheimer go somewhere else? They have to fire him, and who knows who they hire next. I like trying to kind of reorganize the deck chairs on something like that. It eventually did work out pretty well for the Chiefs, but for 2 years it did not.
Do you remember we did that thing about kind of like the butterfly effect thing that like if the elevator jammed when Mizzou was doing the interviews and they couldn't get to Quinn Snyder and they could only get to Bill Self and they hired Bill Self and how everything would be different. And like we went through like all these different he gets this guy and this UConn guy would have gone to Mizzou, and so Mizzou's winning the national championship, and all the different things and how it would have been different. Like, I always love that kind of stuff. That stuff's fun. By the way, great barbecue at Joe's Kansas City. Get it. The app, that's the best way to get it, folks. Get that Joe's Kansas City barbecue app. So easy to slide in, get it curbside to go. And don't forget about the Kansas City barbecue store where you can get sauces, rubs, grills, even the meat, the fuel, the grill itself, the utensils. All my stuff came from the Kansas City barbecue store. Great folks doing a great job. Go see them today. You can find them online at thekansascitybbqstore.com. Danny, Eric Bienemy, I think he's going to get a job, right? But we always like to be proactive and not just reactive. If he doesn't get a job, it's going to be a big deal. And I believe, I said this earlier, I don't know if you heard it, but I believe the NFL, Roger Goodell, and owners have to explain why he has not received a job. I think if you're actually trying to make it better for minority coaches to get jobs in the league, then they need to know why he's not getting a job.
I would say that it's gotten to that point. By resume, he certainly deserves a job. I mean, there's no question about it. The only thing that is in his way, I think, is people don't really think he's the offensive coordinator. And then if he comes in and he doesn't interview tremendously, which apparently he hasn't, just say that. I don't know, or just leak it out, or yes, they do. They're going to have to explain it because the previous person who was in the exact same position and was in the exact same position of being judged as perhaps not having, not being the offensive coordinator was white, and he got a job.
The guy before him, same thing.
Right. So, yes, somebody would have to explain it. Now, Andy Reid said something in his press conference the other day that was, I don't think he really meant to say the way it came out, but he said, these owners, though, they have to feel comfortable with.
Yes.
He said that.
Yes, and that jumped out at me. He's like,
right.
They don't want problems.
They don't want problems. I mean, Eric Bienemy, as a younger man, had certainly had some problems, and some brushes with at least indiscreet behavior, if not brushes with the law slightly. So, is he grown up? Is he? Right. It's going to have to be explained because otherwise you have to be clear about it because otherwise the trend that has been set is that the offensive coordinator under Andy Reid, who's called the offensive coordinator, who's said to be calling the plays or sometimes calling the plays or whatever, have gotten two significant jobs in major markets, and they're white.
And had success, by the way.
Right.
It's not like oh yeah, that's gotten people jobs, but they've gone and crapped in their hat. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl and went to 3 straight playoffs before this year bottoming out, and Matt Nagy has been to the playoffs 2 of his 3 years.
Right, although Matt Nagy's team, and maybe this is even more to his credit, is not an offensive team. Yeah. Not an offensive team.
In fact, he's gotten 2 playoffs in 3 years with a quarterback that everyone universally says is a dog.
I'm here to tell you that I would be if the question is he going to go the way of Adam Gase, like his next job proved to be even worse than he was at his first job, or is he going to go the way of Bill Belichick and prove that no, like if he has the quarterback, he's going to be a rock star? My money's on Belichick before it's on Gase with Matt Nagy. I believe in Matt Nagy. Now, I believe good coaches that could have won get fired too, and maybe never make it work because I think the quarterback is so freaking important. Now, to be a great coach, like I'm about ready in my old age to amend my "if you haven't won a Super Bowl, I can't call you a great coach" line, because the more I watch how important the quarterback is, I don't know that there's any difference between Marty Schottenheimer and Bill Belichick. I mean, like I'm going to amend it to you have to have won a Super Bowl or gone to playoffs with multiple quarterbacks.
The only thing about Marty Schottenheimer is that his teams did play at a time when quarterback was less significant, although not insignificant, certainly.
Less. It wasn't Bart Starr in 7 attempts in a championship game.
Right.
No, but it was, I mean, it was during a run when it was Aikman, that were winning.
Elway, Marino,
Steve Young, Favre,
Montana.
I mean, it was kind of the
had started
of the quarterback thing.
It had just started.
Right. Oh, I mean, quarterback's always been important, even when it was far less important. But still, Vince Lombardi said it a million times. He even said it's the greatest team sport, except the quarterback's too important, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I wonder what he must be absolutely spinning, or an even bigger job. Not just not rolling over in his grave, he must be gyrating in his grave right now.
He's breakdancing in his grave.
That's better. That's a good one.
What the hell is going on out there?
That is better.
It's called popping. I'm popping right now.
No question.
Check me out, Jerry.
But I will say this.
I challenge you to a break bite.
I will say this. If I was going to pick...
I'm sorry, Danny. I just...
Keep rolling, man.
We get going on this. I'm just like, everybody's breaking. Break. That one where he's like, nobody's tackling. Yeah. Nobody's dancing. Everybody's breaking.
About 70 yards.
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, what I would say is that, unfortunately, if somebody said to me, who do you think is going to be a better head coach, Mike Kafka or Eric Bienemy, I'd pick Kafka, probably easily.
Well, and that's the bit we did earlier, and I know you're a busy man, so you might not have heard it, but Curtis brought it up. I mean, give him the numbers. Like, did you hear this about the 15 coaches in the NFL came up on the offensive side of the ball?
Right, I did hear that.
Yeah.
Yes, I did hear that.
All 15 of them either played quarterback or coached the position.
Yeah.
And what was it? 6 of them did both.
Yeah, and apparently the coaching of it has been the more important because only 2 that was John Gruden and Sean McVay did it without actually being a quarterback coach, but they had played quarterback. So that apparently is the direction that teams want to go for when they go for offensive-minded coaches.
Now, I guess the template for the fact that he could be an outstanding head coach would be Mike Tomlin, who wasn't a coordinator, who was considered a leader of men type of coach.
Wasn't he a DC? He was a DC.
Special team.
I think he was a special teams coach.
Yeah, he like John Harbaugh were special teams. There was somebody else who was more primarily a special teams guy that they didn't really ever coach.
John Harbaugh was a DB coach his last 2 years.
Yeah.
After having been special teams. I'm looking here. Vikings defensive coordinator 2006. Bucks D-back coach 01 to 05. Vikings DC in 06.
Yeah, the most recent thing he did that wasn't – he was a wide receivers coach at Arkansas State, but he's been an NFL defensive coach his entire time. Tomlin.
Yeah, but he was defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But a one-year coordinator, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
that's a good point.
He's not considered – most people don't consider him somebody who's Xing and O'ing it up, that he allows other people to do that he's a great leader and, gets his guys to play. They admire him. They respect him. So whether all that's
agree.
true, I don't know. But that would be the template for me for Eric Bienemy to be a success.
My question with the quarterback, if the NFL does come out and say, hey, yes, the quarterback coach job is now a must in the criteria, how long has it been that way? And at what point is that information filtered back down to the assistants? Because what I'm seeing right now underneath that is Byron Leftwich is the only black offensive coordinator who's been a quarterback coach, and the only black quarterback coach in the NFL is Marcus Brady of the Colts. So you're talking about 32 teams. Some guys are their own offensive coordinator. So you're looking at 90 positions? 2 black coaches who have been a quarterback coach.
What do you mean, 90 positions, you mean?
For 3 teams, head coach, offensive coordinator, quarterback coach.
Okay.
Of those 90 or so positions, there's 2 guys who would qualify to be a head coach under whatever you would consider the guidelines to be.
Well, let's call it 64.
64, since it's about,
Yeah, OC and quarterback coach.
Yeah.
That have quarterback coaching duties, on their resume. Because is Bienemy he and Leftwich the only black OCs?
I think so.
That sounds right.
And it's like, well, either the information is not getting down to quarterbacks or to potential coaches who would say, hey, if I want to get this job, I need to start being a quarterback coach. They don't know they're supposed to, or that they're required to, or they're trying to and they aren't being hired at those positions. One of those two, to me, has to be true. And that's a problem. Until that one of those two things is fixed, you're going to have people who are going to run into what Eric Bienemy appears to possibly be running into, and that is the lack of quarterback coach experience.
And listen, it's easy if you just want to be sensationalized talk show host to take whichever side you want on the it's racism. Like, oh, God, it's not, and it's ridiculous to accuse these owners of being racist, or to be like, it's absolutely racism.
Yeah.
I'd like to think, first of all, it's never just one thing. It's always many things. And that's why, we try to find the truth here. Like, that's what I was thinking about. I'm like, Anthony Lynn got fired as a running back coach. That was it. And Anthony Lynn, was he ever a coordinator?
Let me see.
I don't even think he was he? I think he was known as a great leader, and which the Chargers all still loved him, like a leader of men. I think he was like an associate head coach, running backs coach, and then he got a head coaching job. So he had that kind of Dave Tobe, non-traditional second in command spot. Go ahead.
Running backs coach at Jacksonville, Dallas, Cleveland, New York, then assistant head coach at New York, assistant head coach and running backs coach in Buffalo, interim head coach and OC at Buffalo, and then the head coach of the Chargers in 2017.
Yeah, so he was OC?
For 1 year.
Where?
Interim head coach at Buffalo. His last year at Buffalo, it says he was interim head coach at OC.
Okay. Well, that was probably because Chan Gailey was fired.
Right.
He probably became the OC after whoever was in front of him was fired, and he took over both roles. But my point is, I do think one of the things that's underreported is they don't seem to want to give the running back coach the job. And I think it's possible that the running back coach is not qualified, right? Because the running back is toughness and pass blocking and knowing your assignment. And then it's instinct as far as when they put the ball in your hands. It's kind of a specialty position. I'm trying to equate it to another sport. I don't know that there is, because football's pretty unique because everyone's kind of a specialist. But it's not a whole. It's the furthest thing from being a catcher. Seeing the whole field on defense, working with the pitchers, the other guys, while still having a bat in your hand and hitting. It's the furthest thing from he has to deal with it all. It's one of the reasons why I'm shocked that John Harbaugh has not opened the door for Dave Tobe. And I'm thrilled. I want Dave Tobe to stay here in Kansas City. But Harbaugh, like you said, cup of coffee, 1 or 2 years as the DB coach for the Eagles. But his, Dick Vermeil was a special teams coach. That you have to work with the whole roster. And you have to deal with, suck it. Today you don't get that guy because we just had to bump him up and we can't risk him there. So find a new guy. I don't know that there's a position that qualifies you more to deal with the ups and downs and highs and lows of the head coaching job more so than being a special teams coach. Which
is why Mike Prefer is coaching the Browns tomorrow and not an offensive coordinator, because he knows the entire roster.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, we'll take a break. More with Danny Clinkscale. It's Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Estimates always free. Suggestions, they're built on integrity. Let Easton Roofing educate you about every possible roofing solution for your home or business. Easton Roofing will work to figure out what is best for your specific need, educating you on all the options. They're named as a Super Service Award winner. Call Easton Roofing at 913-257-5426. Find them online at eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
You're listening to the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Soren, Petro with you. Danny Clinkscale with us. It's Danny Unleashed, brought to you by our good friends at Easton Roofing. Check them out online right now. Go to eastonroofing.com. Remember, 100% satisfaction. No payment collected until you're 100% satisfied. That's how Easton Roofing does things. eastonroofing.com. Sorry, Danny, I was having a sneezing fit during the break there.
Quite all right.
Yeah, what Rudy got to enjoy it. What do you have a game this weekend that is like your favorite? Like, is there one you're like, oh, I can't wait to watch this one?
I think Baltimore, Tennessee, probably.
Yeah, me too.
I would say that one. I mean, that has the.
I want to see if Harbaugh and Vrabel are going to rumble at midfield, like they almost did last time. And I love both those coaches, and I think they're both. I think Vrabel's big time. Harbaugh's already proven he's big time. That's going to be a fun game. And I loved how who said it earlier in the week, Curtis, that game's going to be a shootout but on the ground.
I could have been Eric Eager.
Yeah,
sounds like something he would say.
Eager.
Or Seth.
They're going to go up and down the field, but via the run, and that actually will be pretty damn entertaining.
I agree with that, and I think that the unconventional for the NFL right now, the way they play. Although Tennessee certainly has a good passing attack, but their defense stinks. So they probably will. Baltimore probably will be able to run it up and down the field.
I'm intrigued by the Colts and Bills to see what the Bills do in this spot and see what the old gunslinger against the young gunslinger. It could be fun.
Yeah.
I like that game.
I like that game. There's only one NFC game worth a crap. That's Rams Seahawks. The other two. Yeah, although Curtis, do you agree with Curtis? Just real quick, that football team's going to give Tampa a game.
I think it's a possibility if they get there. If that front line plays really inspired, because the defensive backs aren't very good for Washington. But I think there's a chance. Yeah.
Danny, you're the man, buddy. We appreciate it. We'll do it again next week, my friend. Have a great weekend.
Thanks a lot, Soren.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.